Well, isn't this civilized? Okay, so first, today's pro tip is to be ready for when inspiration strikes. So what that means is that you want to have things set up so that when you get an idea, you can catch that idea and do something with it. For example, when I went to set this shot up, I was like, I'm going to do a shot on the sofa, and I had an idea, I had a flow. Got a flow, you've got to go, right? So set the camera on the tripod, hit record, and the light from the curtains behind me was like all messed up, so I had to go find some black fabric, pin it up. Then I was looking at it, I was like, oh no, the cables, armchair, everything was totally a mess. So I had to spend about 20 minutes mucking around. So have your space ready so that when you get an idea, boom, you can step in there, hit record. If you're a musician, have your recording studio gear set up so that if you get an idea for a song, boom. Obviously you've got voice memos on the phone. Artists know this, they have a sketchbook and they carry it around with them everywhere. Whatever it is that you have just something, a notebook. I have a document called Ideas for Names of Songs, and any ideas for names go down in there, because you'll forget half of them later and they'll be gone. Those ideas come through, and then a month later you'll be like, what was that cool name for that thing that I thought of? And you'll be like, it's gone. Don't let that happen. Just always keep those notebooks and always make notes of stuff. It's super valuable. One day you'll look back at your notebooks and you'll find these things and be like, oh my God, I'd completely forgotten about that. That is an amazing idea. I should do that. So that's a huge key right there. Cheers. I get to chill out and drink cups of tea and love it. This is the life, right? So what I want to get into today is how you create $1 million blog. So first of all, I've done this. My blog, Herbs Health and Happiness, has generated significantly over $1 million in revenue. I haven't counted it lately, but I think it's around 1.2. I've also had another $100,000+ blog, and I've had 2 or 3 others that are, well into the 5 figures. I have over 40 websites altogether, and I've probably at least 20 of those are blogs. So I've done this. I've been blogging for over 10 years, and I've taken a bunch of shots at the target. And so I've got a lot of data points from those shots. So I can give a lot of valuable input on what works and what doesn't work, basically, because I tried a bunch of different stuff. This is not going to be a technical type of tutorial. I'll go into all the technical details in, follow-up videos and tutorials on the website and all that kind of stuff. But to start with, okay, you want to make a blog, right? You want to shoot for the moon, right? So let's do that. You want $1 million blog, obviously. So the first thing to do before you begin is to get your head on straight and aim for the target. Okay, you have to know where the target is so that you can shoot for it. So first things first, you have to pick a topic. Now, the topic has to be something that either you know a lot about or that you want to know a lot about, because you can study for the articles that you're going to write, and then obviously you kind of write the article as you're going along, as you're learning, and you share what you're learning as you go along with people. That's one way to go about it, but it's very important that you pick a topic that you are very strongly interested in and that you won't get bored by in a year. You're going to have to write about this topic for at least 1 year in order for this blog to be successful. So really think about that before you start, because if you only have a passing interest in it, you almost might as well not bother, because if you're going to get to 50 posts and then you're going to go like, I'm over it, it was a waste of time even beginning. Don't do that. Pick something that you're super into. Very, very important. That's a really key point. It doesn't have to be the thing that you're the best at, but it has to be something that you are not going to get burned out by in a year. So that's really the first crucial point to make. The next thing that's really, really important is that you have to stay focused 100% on giving high value and creating high value content. If you think that you're going to just go to ChatGPT and go, ChatGPT, give me a load of article titles, it's going to dump a load of stuff out, and then go, write me a blog post for each article, boom, it spits them out, and then you go, right, okay, I'm going to put these up on the blog, and I'm going to post them all to my social media, and everyone's going to love me and follow. No, they're not. Because they're going to look at it and they'll be like, what's this crap? It's not going to be anything valuable to them at all. It's going to be a bunch of AI generated nonsense that, do you really want to read that? Really? You know, when you want to learn about something, you know that there's a better way to do this. It's just the content quality is just not going to be good enough. And it's not going to be insightful enough. And it's not going to be, that just overall, it's just a bad idea. So when I first started out doing this, I literally just set myself the goal to write the best possible article that I could on the topic that I was writing about. To begin with, I would just randomly pick topics that I was interested in, you know, within the framework of my blog. And that actually turned out to be not really the best topic, because in a way I was kind of solving a problem that nobody had, because I had kind of quite specialized interests. So I'd go into great detail on them, and it wasn't very targeted. Obviously, social media was a big part of the thing that catapulted the success. But what happened alongside that in terms of the content strategy was that I learned to find topics that were significantly important to people, and you can use the data of what's already out there to see what it is that people want to learn. And one of my content strategies was to find stuff that had already done really well on social media, and then look at their article and ask myself a simple question: can I do a better article than that? If so, do it. It was build a better biscuit of a kind of biscuit that people basically want, because this has already gotten great traction. You can see it. So at that point, you have a kind of a reliable target. And obviously, it wasn't all data mine posts from other people's interests. There was quite a few that were my own interests woven in, and it was a mix basically of those kinds of things. So, people are going to give you advice on, oh, you need to do SEO and you need to do all this stuff and you need to be like blah 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 blah, technical this, technical that, growth hacks that. No, forget all of that. Your number one growth hack, okay, is to be creating amazing content that when people find it, they go, wow, this is really cool. Wonder what else they've got. That's what you're looking for. There's no way to shortcut that process that currently exists. You can go to ChatGPT and you can get ideas and you can get, a sketch and a framework laid out, but you still have to put the work in to make that content really high value. You still have to add relevant images. You have to illustrate it with examples from your own experience. This isn't something that ChatGPT can do. It can spit out a rehashed kind of bundle of facts, but it's not enough. It isn't enough. Trust me on this one. When I discovered social media, I already had at least 100 posts for the Natural Health website, ready to go. And that was brilliant. And I locked in and I just was full power making content. And obviously I started hiring outsourced to help me with various bits and pieces. And that blog blew up and became really, really successful. And that was actually my $1 million blog. Was the first. I'd had numerous informational websites before that, but the first blog I created, the first WordPress blog was the one that absolutely blew up. And then I created another one, and that was the second one I did, was the 100,000 plus website. And then I basically made a really big mistake, which was I thought, I'm going to take over the universe. I'm going to hire a team. And I'm going to just scale up, right? I'm going to build tons of blogs on all kinds of topics, and we're just going to take over the world here, right? Because now I've cracked the formula. So I went nuts and I hired a whole team of people, and I called it air traffic control, because it was like I was there waving my arms around frantically, and there was articles flying in from all directions. I had someone doing graphics, someone doing social media posting. We had a whole system of folders in Dropbox where the articles would come in and they would go to somebody's Dropbox and all the rest of it, right? And we cranked out these new websites, just like a machine. And you know what? They all completely tanked. Just sucked. I mean, I had so much content coming in that I didn't have time to proofread all of it. Some of it, literally, to my shame, was just thrown up on those websites. And what happened? I had suddenly I had a 400-page website full of crap. When somebody lands on that website, they're like, next. It's just not good enough. And, you think that you can win this game by just shortcutting the process of giving value. You can't, okay? Your job is to give value. That's it. All the rest is details. Everything else is details. So your question that you should be asking yourself is, how can I give the most value possible? What can I do to increase the amount of value that I give to my customers? That is your number one question. I would say that's the number one question in any business. If you can think of a better question than that, stick it in the comments, because I ain't never heard of it. That's it. It's a value equation, straight up. You want their money, you give them value. And they got choice. What are you going to do? Try and pull the wool over their eyes? It's a failed strategy. Or are you going to try and give them more value than everybody else and be like, this is why you want this, it's because it's better. This is why it's better than this other thing. And they're like, you're right, I'll buy it. That's how it's done. It's actually not that hard, but it's funny how the lengths that we all try to go to until we realise it doesn't work, to try and circumvent that process and to try and shortcut and get paid and get fed quickly, you know. So the biggest shortcut of all turns out to be actually to create maximum value. So there's a interesting process that happens with blogs, and I want to tie this into human psychology and tie it into who we are. That's I'm just going to sip the tea before I do that, because that's really super interesting. You're a hunter-gatherer. We are hunter-gatherers. It's what we do. Okay, and the world we came from, we were in small tribes, and it was basically us against the universe and us and our little team. This is really important, okay, so follow along with this, because understanding this is the key, just the key to the psychology of the whole thing, right? We think we're in the modern world now, really, but in fact, evolution as far as who we are doesn't happen very fast. Our bodies haven't actually adapted to wheat yet, because it's only a few thousand years old. Let that sink in. We're still hunter-gatherers. We're designed to move all day, to run, to pick things, to grab a spear, throw it. We don't have fangs, okay? We don't have claws. We're not built to run after an animal and take it down with our teeth, okay? Do you know anybody that does that? I don't. It's not what we were built to do. We're hunter-gatherers. We still are hunter-gatherers. Now, what's really interesting is that even though you have the connection to 1 billion plus people at your fingertips, literally, on the internet, you know, you can pick up your phone and you can reach 1 billion people, but you don't, mostly. And it turns out, really interestingly, that we still have a small tribe that we think of as our people. You probably have like one best friend, a close family that's maybe on average, I don't know, like what, 3 to 6 people. And then if you think about your best pals, right, your crew, your people that you connect with the deepest, you probably got like less than 10 of those friends. Most people have, and it's just how we are. You can only maintain a certain number of those connections and those bonds because it takes a certain amount of time. You know, if you have, you know, your bestie, you're probably in touch most days. Your brother or your sister or your mum or whatever, or your dad, your daughter, you're in contact with them nearly every day, right? So we have these kind of circles, right, of our people. And, you know, we have family, then we have like close friends, then we have contacts and acquaintances, and then there's sort of civil society at large, if you like, on the outside. And we still think in terms of this us and them thing, because it's how we were, it's how we evolved. So what's interesting is that those instincts still basically run us. And imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer, right? Imagine you're running through the field and you're looking for something good for your tribe, right? Which is what you do. You know, you go out in the daylight hours and you go hunt for something good, right? It's just the same as scrolling, basically. You're hunting for something good. So you're out running around, right? And let's say you find a gold coin or a new berry patch. What's your favorite berry, right? You find a new raspberry patch that you've never seen before. You're like, oh my God, look at this. I found a gold coin, whatever. What's the first thing your first instinct is you're like, I got to tell my brother about this. You know what I mean? That is the same instinct that we still have that runs the way we use social media. If you find something really, really good, you want to share it with your tribe, right? It's just hardwired, and you'll do it before you even think twice about it, because what keeps that bond together between you is that you all share with each other. We're guided by those impulses to do that. Right? Makes sense, doesn't it? So there's further effects, right? There's a lot more of these further effects. Let's say instead of finding a gold coin, you find you find one, and then you're like, holy shit, there's another one. Oh my God. And there's another one. Okay, there's like a whole bunch of gold coins here. I got to tell my whole tribe. We got to come and get these now before it's too late, kind of thing. So you'll like send out a notification. You'll share it to your whole tribe, right? When you find a treasure trove, not just one gold coin, but a treasure trove, it then has this extra value stack, right? Follow me, because there's a reason why I'm doing this, okay? And when you get this, it's like, it's amazing, right? So there are other further impulses that are hardwired. Let's say you're out, and I don't know, you're by the coast somewhere, right? And you see a tsunami coming, okay? You're like, the ocean's gone out. That's weird. And then you see that line on the horizon, and you're like, it's a fucking tsunami, holy shit, right? What's your instinct? Your instinct is like, sound the alarm. So you're going to shout it from the rooftops, right? You're going to run down the street yelling. You know what I mean? And so when there's an alarm signal, people have a further instinct that kicks in to share it with the greater circle, right? It's a civilization at large. When the importance of something stacks into that next kind of shell, if you like, then we're like, okay, I got to tell everybody about this. So you can see in social media that there's people using that strategy, Facebook, where they try and shout it from the rooftops. It's what the media is doing all day, basically. But there's the phenomenon of cry wolf. Remember the old children's fable of Cry Wolf, of the boy who went, wolf, wolf, there's a wolf coming, you know, and there was no wolf. But he realised he could get like a lot of attention if he cried wolf. I think it worked once, and it might have worked the second time, but the third time everyone was like, not interested in you anymore, you're just crying wolf, you know? It's exactly the same on social media. You can't build a brand around continuously shouting emergency from the rooftops, because if you do, it gets old real fast and people tune you out. It's a failed strategy, basically. You can't manufacture that kind of urgency for very long. It should be saved for actually genuine occasions. If you are that person that cries wolf all the time, people are just going to tune you out. And when you try and tell them about something important, they'll be like, why should I listen to you? So the things you share with your tribe, you have to verify first that they actually have value. And then you're like, my brother's going to really like this. Now think about the different kinds of value that might be. If you are scrolling and you find a meme that's like completely brilliant, and you're like, that is hilarious, whatever it is, it's a really, really funny joke, whatever. I mean, I share the funniest jokes with my dad and my brother, right? And it's so that kind of humor is one thing that we like to share. Things that are really beautiful, we love to share those. Things that are really useful is very important as well. When I find really good tools, I share those with my brother. I mean, my he's a workshop guy, I'm a workshop guy. We both grew up together doing stuff with our hands, working with tools. And so we just have this kind of inside conversation going over the long term on that subject. And so whenever there's like a really cool tool, I'll be like, hey, have you seen this? And he is amazing at it as well. Like, he'll only share those things with me if they are like really good, if they're absolutely worth my time and worth my attention. So worth time and worth attention. So time all of this back into what you create, right? There are all these different forms of value. Make a list of them all, identify them, check your own behavior and your own habits, and be like, what are the things that cause you by impulse to share it with certain groups of people, right? Those qualities, those are the qualities that your blog posts or your YouTube videos or whatever it is should have, right? That's where the secret sauce is. It's not in like SEO, it's not in tricks, all the rest of it. So you start one at a time and you think, okay, what's the most useful blog post that I can make right now, right? And you think about something that you know a lot about and you're like, hey, that's a good topic. Remember your ideas book? Every time you think of one, put it down, because once you get into this flow, those ideas are going to start coming thick and fast, and they're going to come like I mean, I've been doing this now for years as a content creator in all kinds of mediums. You know, I play the piano, I do recording studio, graphics, writing, blah, 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 blah. I have so many ideas that I need 8 lifetimes to do them all. I do not have time. And I have to keep those, otherwise it drives me mad if I don't have a way to catch those ideas. So anyway, to begin with, get into the habit of just thinking about what's my best idea right now? What's the most valuable thing I got for my tribe? If you ain't got anything for your tribe right now, don't write. Don't create a YouTube video. Don't feel as though you have to keep to a schedule, okay? It's all not right. The schedule is your natural flow of inspiration. That's the real schedule. That's how this should work. And when you tap into that and tune out the other stuff and start getting into that habit of creating that value, you start researching a subject like, yeah, this article needs to have more value. Like what's it missing? Hey, I know, we should dig further into that aspect of it. Maybe I can learn more and that'll be more valuable. So just keep it focused on that. The rest is details. Obviously, I'm going to do some follow-up tutorials on how to set up your WordPress and, you know, all that kind of technical stuff and which web hosting I use and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to try and sell you anything yet. You know, I'm not. That's not the way to do this. The treasure trove principle. Remember this part. So when you find a gold coin, right? That is a certain item of value. Like, oh, that's cool. I'll grab that and bring that back to my tribe. When you find a whole treasure trove, what are you going to do? You're going to make a map and you're going to be like, this is where it is. This is like really valuable information now that I've discovered this. So your blog needs to have the treasure trove effect on the people that find it. They want to look at it and be like, oh wow, this article was cool. Wonder what he's got. Oh, that's the only article? Okay, right, fair enough, done. They'll grab that article and they're gone. But when, I would say there's a magic that happens at 500 posts, and then there's another further piece of magic that happens at 1,000 posts. Those are just ballpark numbers. It could be a lot less posts if you create a lot more value. And I've just noticed it in the, you know, from my own blogs, from my own observation, right? That I was like, all the blogs that I've done that did over 1,000 pages are the ones that hit it out of the park. Interesting. And all the ones that were in the sort of second tier that did fairly well were the ones that have at least 500 pages. And all the ones that I did like 20 pages and then I just didn't find whatever it was inside myself to keep pushing with it, and they failed. Okay, so the next thing is that, you know, you're going to get to a point, if you want to scale this into a business, where you want to automate some aspects of it and you want to hand it over to other people. So here's a really key insight about who to hire, okay? If you want to hire a writer, I must have hired about 50 writers over the years. Some for a short time, some for a long time, some work for a long, you know, for months, even years. You don't want to hire a hack writer who, you know, it's not ideal, who cranks out articles on every topic and just people throw them topic ideas, and there are people that can do that fairly well. There's actually a guy that has done some work for me who's actually really quite good at that. He's a generalist and he knows how to research and he knows how to put together a good research-based article on any topic. But the point is that he doesn't have any inside knowledge of those topics and he doesn't have any real passion for those topics. He has a passion for crafting a good article. So that's a good thing. But my best writers, the best writer I ever had, right, and this was for my health website, she still is. She's a senior nurse at a hospital in the Philippines. And I mean, as if that didn't give her enough work to do. She's busy enough already, but as her side hustle, kind of moonlight gig, she wrote my natural health articles. And it was actually perfect for her because she wanted to research and become more knowledgeable in her field all the time because, you know, it was like her field, her passion. And the more knowledge she had about health topics, the more helpful she could be to her patients, right? So it was the perfect moonlight gig for her. And she had no interest whatsoever in shortcutting the process and just being a cranker and spitting out a second-rate article for me. Okay, because if someone's one of those people, that's what they'll do, because they got bills to pay and they want to put food on the table, and they're like, I have to make this many articles, and so it's not going to be high grade content, and you don't want a blog full of that. Trust me, you want a blog full of wow, basically. So the way I worked with her was that I did the title research for the topics, and I put together a kind of a big breadbasket of, say, 50 or 100 titles at a time. And some of these I would data mine the titles. I would literally go on YouTube, find the most slamming videos that had got the most the most likes, and I'd look at those topics and be like, can we do one on this topic, kind of thing. And so I would pull some from there. I'd pull some from my own interests. I'd pull some from the stuff people were talking about and the other stuff, topic areas that got the most traction. And I would look at headline formats that got the most traction and weave those into it. So I would just literally put the titles together, and I'd give her a basket of titles. And I said to her, rather than do all of these, I said, pick whichever ones of these you feel the most strongly about and the most interested in, and the ones that you would most like to work on. And if any of these claims in these headlines turns out to be rubbish, bin it. Don't write that article. And if you got halfway through it before you realised that this just doesn't hold up when you do the scientific research, I was like, let me know and I'll pay you up to the point that you worked on. So you don't have to worry, So I empowered her to investigate, and I empowered her to work within her field of her passions and her interests. That's how you hire a good writer, and that's how you get good content from them. And so she was phenomenally busy, obviously. She was a senior nurse at a hospital right through the whole COVID thing, right through everything. And so she was on a flexible schedule. There'd be times where she didn't do any articles for weeks, and then she would kind of get into gear and do a batch of them. But over the years, she created, I'm going to guess, several hundred articles for me. And she, whenever she had the time and the inclination, she would come back and do more. So that was a really good way to do it. Obviously, I needed more flow than that altogether. So I was writing some too, and I had a couple of other writers on those websites too at the same time. Anyway, that's a ton of stream of consciousness for one day. But that is some key insights. That's, in my opinion, is how you build a $1 million blog. It doesn't have to be the thing that you already know the most about. It can be something that you want to learn a load about. By all means, pick a topic that's a high-paying topic, like tech industry, all the rest of it. But if you're not really interested in it, if you don't actually give a damn about it, I would strongly suggest to steer away from it, because you'll burn out. You have to be prepared to put in a year, right? 500 articles before a blog really starts to show form. At 100, you'll start to see things happening, and you'll have enough at that point to be able to start posting it on social media, because you're going to need at least one a day. I built mine up to the point where I'm like posting at least 24 times a day. That's another topic for a whole nother video, how to blow up the social media. I'll come up on that one, and I built 4.5 million social media followers, so I'll get to that. That's it for this one. Stay tuned.